We know where David Cameron stands on a referendum. We now know where Ed Miliband stands. Where do you stand on the idea of an in-and-out referendum?
Well, there should be a referendum when the United Kingdom is asked to give up new powers to the European Union, when there's a new treaty in the European Union. That's what we've always said as a party. It's what we've legislated for, funnily enough, with the Conservatives just recently. And then, exactly the precise wording on the ballot paper. To be honest, I think whatever question you put on the ballot paper, the underlying issue is still the same, is do you believe that Britain should lead in Europe, or should we be somehow marginalised from it?
The Prime Minister said yesterday that if what happened at the next general election happened again, if he was to go into coalition, he would stay by this promise. How did you respond to that idea? Would you form another coalition with him?
Well, look, I'm certainly not going to stare into a crystal ball to sort of second-guess what the choice of the British people is going to be.
But if the numbers were the same?
Well, hang on. I actually don't think it's for any of us politicians to start sort of saying that we're going to make deals with each other before we know what the British people want. And that's what I said before the last election. It's what I'm certainly going to say ahead of the next one. I'll follow the instructions of the British people. If a coalition is necessary following the votes of the British people, then we'll play our part. But you
could work in with him a coalition.
Look. As I say, if you need, I will always play a responsible role. I've done it, done it in the past at some political cost. I will do it again if necessary to provide this government, this country, with good government in the national interest. I so happen to, obviously, where I disagree with David Cameron is not the principle of a referendum. I've got absolutely no fear of a referendum at all.
I refer you to your literature of 2010. It's time for a real referendum on Europe, and there's your picture, a very young Nick Clegg in that photograph.
There you go. I've aged since then.
That's the power.
No, absolutely. We've campaigned in the past when there have been new treaties on the table to ratify, to do that via referendum. In fact, we've gone further than that. We've legislated in this Parliament to make sure when there's a new treaty, you then have a referendum to put to the British people. So the British people have a belt and braces guarantee in law, because of Liberal Democrats and Conservatives in government, that there will be a referendum when there's a treaty. Where, of course, David Cameron and I part companies, I simply don't understand the point of spending years and years and years tying yourself up in knots first, so-called renegotiating the terms of Britain's membership in ways that, at the moment at least, are completely vague. And I think that discourages investment and inhibits growth and jobs, which has to remain our absolute priority at a time when the economy is still struggling to recover.
So it must be difficult to work closely with the man who thinks so radically different to you.
We think radically differently on a number of things, but right. He's perfectly entitled to say that as Conservative Party leader, these are his ideas if he were to have a Conservative majority in the next general election. I will set out ideas, and already have done, on things that I would like to do that the Conservatives don't want to do at the moment. That's normal in politics. It's normal in coalition politics. But I really do think when people worry most, I mean, I'm sure, of course, this European question is of a lot of concern to a lot of people. But my experience is that the things that people worry about more than that is immigration, jobs, crime on their streets. And my worry is, how are we going to address those concerns, which are the things that people care about most, if you're going to spend the next 5 years touring European capitals, coming up with ever more complex ways of renegotiating the status of Britain within the European Union. That seems to me to be not actually addressing the things that people care about most in their everyday lives.